Hey, it's Adam Zdroik of RotoWire talking about starting slow at Sorare. I think it's important to, there's a lot of stuff to take in. As you can see, I'm going to have a few of these videos, and my advice, take things slow. Don't put a bunch of money in. Don't make a massive purchase of your first week of playing Sorare. That's my advice. Some people may say otherwise, may say to dive right in and kind of just get into it. But personal experience here. So my experience, I was forced to play free version for about a year on Sorare. I just couldn't get the deposit to work. I don't know if it was me living in a state where depositing wasn't working for these certain things, but eventually I got it. I finally could deposit. This was summer of 2022, and summer of 2022 was probably the peak of Sorare pricing, the max of Sorare pricing. And I was like, okay, I finally got money in. Now I'm just going to buy some cards here. And it kind of went off the rails a little bit. And if you look at prices on Sorare data, you'll see that a lot of these guys a lot of players, because this is before Premier League really got into it. And now we're at a point in 2023 where it's kind of plateaued a little bit. Pricing for players is kind of hasn't really moved too much in the last few months, but 2022, I'm buying all these goalkeepers that are, $100 kind of a thing. And now a lot of them are sub 50, even though they're still regular starters. So it's just kind of a thing where kind of get yourself into it, kind of learn about pricing, kind of learn about the market and that kind of thing. That's my suggestion. If you really want to get into it, if you want to put however much money in and you're going to start buying players right off the bat, and you don't really care if a player goes up or down, go for it. Again, this is just my thoughts on the whole process here. As you can see here on the screen, there's 391 licensed teams. There's a lot of teams. There's a lot of leagues to figure out. And my suggestion is to focus on a league that you already know or a team that you already know. This is if you're buying players, just to focus right there. You go from there, and that'll hopefully be easier than, I don't know, learning about 10 new leagues. Then, currently there's going on. I think there's J1, the Japanese league is currently live, maybe the South Korean league kind of thing. Instead of, jumping into that market of being like, okay, now I got to learn about these Japanese and Korean players kind of thing. Instead of doing that, I'd say focus on what you already know. And then as things get going, then you can learn about, as long as you have time, then you can learn about other leagues and you can learn about other teams. That's my suggestion here. As you can see, this screen right here that I have up, this is kind of, you go into the market. There's new card auctions, there's starter packs, there's manager sales. You're buying from other managers. New card auctions, you're buying, new cards that are coming on the market that Sorare is releasing. Pretty basic from there. So I'm just going to come with a basic strategy, a really basic strategy of getting your first card. And this isn't even, let's say you like MLS. Maybe you don't even care about MLS, but just going to start with MLS. This is the lineups page on RotoWire, rotowire.com/soccer trial. It's a free 48-hour trial. You're going to want that for a lot more information than our lineups, but our lineups page is helpful. So I'm just going to start with this first game, and I'm going to just give an example of how you can get your first player or find the first player that you want. And then I'll kind of, at the end, I'll tell you how or where you can actually use this card in competition. So I'm just going to go here, just get some center backs. Pretty easy. This guy, Matt Hedges, 33-year-old defender, maybe on his last legs, maybe a couple years left, but let's see what's happened with him. Okay, he's dealt with a little bit of injury. Sure, he's an older defender. Started regularly earlier in the season. What do we got? Lower body injury. Okay, came off early, back in the starting 11 in the most recent game. Maybe not fully fit, but he went 45 minutes, so that's a good sign just for him. Okay, so let's go over to Sorare data, and then let's see what the cards. We're only talking limited cards right now. I'm not going to be talking rare, super rare, unique, whatever. This is only limited conversation. So Matt Hedges here. Okay, super cheap player. He's a little older, so that makes sense. He doesn't have a ton of years left on him, but okay, let's look at his scoring. Okay, the scoring's not too bad. This is not too bad. You see some greens in here. When he started earlier in the season, okay, some away matches not as good, some home matches a lot better. Obviously, you got clean sheet bonuses in here as well. Another 10 points add in there, but okay, and then you throw in some injuries, and okay, his numbers aren't as good. No, sure, okay, not as good. Wasn't playing here, so maybe that hurts his price a little bit. Okay, let's look at his price graph a little bit and see what's happened in the last few months. Okay, it's been kind of up and down. This kind of correlates to how the season's gone for him. Okay, he was a regular starter, got hurt a little bit, came back, got hurt again, came back, and now he's back again. So as you can see, let me click in the last week here. So he started, maybe $1. Maybe now his auctions are up to $2 kind of thing. And this is a minimal player, minimal defender. So if you want him going to Sorare, go into the market and look up you just search his name and then look up cards. And then if you got money in, go from there. I should mention, so depositing money on Sorare is maybe difficult for some, but currently they've been in talks of adding simple credit card deposit right into your Sorare account. During this video, that is still not live yet. They've been working with it for, I believe, months. So that should be out at some point. I'm going to assume it's going to be out before the European League starts. So we'll see what happens with that. But currently, you're at the risk of, maybe not the risk, but you got to use an app called, or a service called Ramp or Moon, and then this is like a cryptocurrency. So really, it's not that difficult. You just have an account there, and you use your credit card through that. It's all good. You go through Ramp or Moon, you put your credit card in, and that brings you money to Sorare. If that makes sense. I probably didn't explain that very well, but it's not that difficult as it sounds. So once you have money in there, you go to this process, you get your cards. So in competitions, we already talked about the free competitions in a prior video, talked about the amateur level and the free competitions. So there's another level up. It's called semi-pro, and this is when you're first buying cards. So this is the level that you kind of want. I suggest that you stay in for a little bit. So if you need 10 limited cards or fewer. If you have more than 10 limited cards, you can no longer play in semi-pro. So my suggestion is to play a certain amount of time, maybe a month, however serious you're going to get, play in the semi-pro levels and kind of go from there. So with the semi-pro competition, you have, I can't pull it up because I'm not actually in semi-pro, which would be helpful. But so let's say you got Matt Hedges. So you got this card, you got Matt Hedges in your team, and you have your one limited card, and you have your free team from the amateur. So in semi-pro, all you need is one limited card, and then you can use all your other free cards in this lineup. So my suggestion for semi-pro is don't go out and buy goalkeepers right away, because you have the 2 goalkeepers for free that you have in your amateur squad. So you can use all those amateur players in this semi-pro squad. I know it's a lot here. It's a lot to get into, but at its core, I mean, once you figure it out, it's not that easy. So semi-pro, you get one limited card. You got Matt Hedges, you have him, and then you can start 4 other players around him. Again, Matt Hedges is the simple example that I used earlier in the show. And then you use your 4 free cards around him, and then you have a semi-pro squad. And from there, you can win contests from there. I mean, you have all these free players that are pretty solid, and you're only playing against other people with 10 limited cards max. So you're playing against like size teams, like size collections kind of thing. So there you go. Buying your first 10 cards, buying your first card. That's kind of how it goes. Limited cards are the cheapest you're going to find, and then it gets up higher and higher and higher. But my suggestion here, when you're buying cards or when you get started off, maybe you don't want to buy an MLS card. Maybe you don't want to buy Matt Hedges. You don't want to buy a 33-year-old center back kind of a thing. My suggestion, once you get buy-in, once you get going, once you learn about Sorare a little bit, I'd say narrow your scope in terms of how you want to play, how you want to buy cards. A new addition to Sorare recently, has been collections. Collections, you get boosts, you get bonus points when you have uh, multiple players in one club. So let's say you have, I mean, we can go back to, for the sake of it, we can go back to Toronto FC. Let's say you have Hedges. Let's say you have Bernadeschi, Sapong, and Insigne. Let's say you have all these guys. You get a boost for all the Toronto players you have. But my initial suggestion with narrowing your scope is go to what you know. Go to what you know. Unless it's like, okay, your favorite club is Manchester City. It's going to be a little different. It's going to be a little difficult to get, Haaland and De Bruyne if you're working in limited money here. Of course, if you want to deposit a couple thousand, then you can get all those Manchester City guys. But I'd say focus on a team, focus on a league, and then go from there. You don't want to have one player from MLS, one player from Liga MX, one player from Argentina, another player in Asia. That just makes it more difficult, makes it a little more confusing. So I'd say get your team, maybe find a club in each of the European leagues, go like that, or maybe, start with a club in MLS and kind of build from there. With all these clubs, with all these maybe non-Premier League clubs, even though there's still some Premier League players that are cheaper, but non-Premier League players, non-Premier League clubs, you can find you can find a lot of defenders who are sub $5, a lot of midfielders sub $5. So it's not that difficult to put together 3-4 players from one team. So that's my suggestion. Narrow your scope to focus on a team, to focus on a league. There you go. That's my suggestion of buying your first 10 cards. Start slow. I wish I started slow, but now you can listen to me and learn from my faults and my failures a little bit of starting slow at Sorare. But this is another version of Undercooked Sorare strategies. Tune in more, rotowire.com/soccer trial to get all of the RotoWire information and to find all these injury information that I found on this Matt Hedges page. All this stuff is not available if you do not have a subscription. So it will come in very helpful